Ladies and gentlemen, your hosts, Michael Wilkes, Angel Ortiz, Dr. Chad, and Sam La Cavera. Go check out beardedbrowns.com and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. Enjoy the show.
What is up, everybody, on this beautiful, well, probably warm from Chad, a little bitterly cold here in Cleveland, Ohio. It is Combine Week, and we are excited that we're going to talk a little bit about that. That's going to be a fun conversation we're going to have. We're going to talk about that. We got some Browns news, and we're going to talk about some Combine topics. And then Andrew Berry had a press conference for about 20-25 minutes. We're going to talk about that. A couple of things that we pulled out of it ourselves. If you feel like you got something out of it, once we hit that section, please comment down below and let us know what you feel Andrew Berry was saying, and you can interpret it the way you want. And then maybe we can also interpret it, because obviously Andrew Berry talks many different languages and people hear it differently. And we're going to interpret it our way. So that's what we're going to do tonight. So thank you for tuning in. Like, comment, share, let people know that we're on. Tune in to this conversation. It's going to be a fun one. But before we do that, I have to do some house cleaning here. I have a announcement to make. The Tuscarawas Browns backers are going to have the 1980 Rookie of the Year Joe Charbonnet on at Shenanigans Bar and Grill, April 11th from 1 to 3. He is going to be doing autographs, 1 for 10, 2 for 20. He's a 1980s Rookie of the Year. Way before my time. I was born in 81, so I wouldn't even remember this guy. But if you're a longtime Indians/Guardians fan, I'm sure you would want to go there and meet a legend in the making there. Local legend, I guess. But that Rich hit me up and said, "Hey, can you help me out here?" I said, "Sure, Rich." And that's why I'm wearing their hat, Tuscarawas Browns backers hat. They're good Browns backer down there in Tuscarawas. They do good job down there doing the Browns backer stuff. So I want to support them. Nonetheless, how was your weekend, Chad?
Oh man, I've been so slammed at work that my weekend was just like, it was great. I had a great weekend, but I've just been exhausted. So at this point, like, a good weekend sort of feels like I spent just at least one day doing
Nothing.
like absolutely nothing, which is not my style. Like I'm like a get up and move guy. I can't like lay around and waste a weekend, but I am dying for a full weekend where I just do nothing. But it was good. I had fun. Weather's been good here, fortunately for me. Um, and yeah, and overall is pretty great. So, and then back to the grind again this week. But hey, we're here for it.
Yeah, we're here. Weekend was pretty fast for me. I don't even. Oh, I went to the mall for the first time in like a long time, and it was a
Wow,
bad time.
very 90s of you.
Yeah, we needed to get out the house. It was a little cold, so we decided to do something inside. And it was a worst time to go to the mall because we didn't realize they were doing some Girl Scout all-nighter. So as the place was closing, it was getting fuller and fuller with just like girls running around. So it was like, if you're like, I get claustrophobic pretty easily. So I felt very like closed in, even though like stores were closed. I was like, babe, we need to get out of here. We spent a lot of money on our kids for toys that shouldn't have been priced that much, but that's what you get when you go to the mall and you take your kids there.
Yeah,
Either way,
they gotta walk around with you. They need their prizes.
they need they need their toys, man. Uh, but hey, Annie Ann's had some pretzels and hot dog pretzels. It was really
You
good.
know, there's something super nostalgic about the mall, though. I haven't been there forever, but like, I feel like that is a thing. You're like gonna go to Cinnabon or Jamba Juice or what is it? What is the little what was the
Uh,
one Jamba Juice is here? What is
Orange
Orange
Julius.
Julius? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like what would it have been if I was in Ohio? It'd be like an Orange Julius. Like there is something about like getting a pretzel or a bun or I don't know why, but like the food court is like the most nostalgic place. It reminds me so much of being like a preteen,
Just
like during
walking
the
around the
arcade
mall
days. Well,
looking
you
for
just like
girls.
you could play in the arcade, but you didn't have enough quarters, so like you'd have to like just do like walking laps and then have just enough money to like buy something in the food court so you could just stall there and like people watch and hope to run into
Somebody,
somebody.
you
Yeah.
didn't meet your love of your life for a summer.
You
And
thought so, yeah.
by
That's what you
school.
wanted to do.
Yeah,
Ha
when
hang
school
out in the food
starts
court and
and
hope to run
yeah,
into girls from, like, a different school.
yeah. Yeah, I remember those days. You would go, yeah, man,
Mhm.
those were days. Now going to the mall gives me anxiety. So here I am doing podcasts instead in my
Not the same.
room. It's not the same.
No.
Let's start today off with the Browns stories of the week brought to you by Cleveland Ketchup. So the term here is let's catch up with the news of the week. Get it? Catch up. Cleveland Ketchup. Boom, boom.
Yeah, where's Mike now?
Yeah, Mike needs those sound effects, girl.
We need
Angel,
that dude on the
KP
drums.
said, Angel, did those Girl Scouts try to say any leftover cookies? They didn't have any cookies. That's what made me even more mad. They
Oh,
just brought
yeah. I mean, what is the point, girls?
they wa- they just came. It was like a shut in, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they were selling cookies. I was more worried about getting my kids out of there before I caught a cold from all these
Honestly, without the Thin Mints,
nasty
I don't
kids.
even know what that group does.
Yeah, what do they even do other
They're
than
just
sell cookies?
tiny salespeople with ponytails, and that's kind of
Basically.
what I know them as.
And I'm broke every time they come around. What's up, Gregory? Thanks for the comment on YouTube there. First news of the week: Jeremiah Owusu Koromora career likely over at one point, and then the next day, is it? Mary Kay Cabot put out a report on Saturday or Friday, well, one of those days, that his career is basically done. Most likely will never play again. And then JOK politely follows with the term something about, hey, have I been in the news lately, or has anyone heard the news lately? So a little cryptic Instagram post by JOK. Seems like he doesn't want people to know his business, and I don't know. Mary Kay has a source, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how these sources work. We don't have one here in our podcast, so must be nice to
We
have one.
Well, we've had a couple, but we don't have those ones that are gonna, like, dig into these, like, players' backgrounds. I'll say this, if I were her source, as just, like, given my profession, and I was just given a professional,
Mm.
like, thought on a recovery from that injury after missing an entire year, I'd probably tell her the same thing. Like, if I'm a betting man, I'd say, "I'm not gonna bet on him coming back." But I think the response from JOK looked a lot like, uh, "I didn't I haven't announced I'm retiring, so, like, why don't we just wait?" So I do think he's trying to come back. Again, I'm not optimistic for him coming back, but I'm unwilling to close the book on him until he comes out and says, like, the guy could miss literally 2 years, and I'd still be like, "I'm gonna wait a minute and just
Yeah,
see."
he's worth it. I'm
Yeah,
gonna wait.
yeah. He's
Just a
still
thought.
young, he's still very
Yeah.
young, he's a linebacker, so he can play for a minute, but I would say, again, not optimistic, but I'm not going to be the one who's pulling the trigger on I'm not pulling the plug on the guy until, like, he's literally like, "Let me go." So,
Yeah. I think he
but those
has another
responses to
year on
social
his
media are just
contract.
funny, where, like, a reporter says something and the player immediately is like, "You sure? You sure
You
about
sure?
that?"
Yeah, you sure. And that's what makes it funny that when they actually call out the
Mhm.
individual
Yeah.
reports. I have a question for you. That you're the more medical person. Is it legal for somebody to report the health on a athlete? Not just let's go with athlete since this is what we're talking about. Is someone who's close to the situation, maybe a nurse or whatever, if they go to Mary Kay Cabin and says, "Hey, it doesn't look like he's playing," isn't that illegal?
Yes, so reporters shouldn't be able to get that information essentially from anybody but the player or from the healthcare provider with, like, written consent to share it, essentially, which is obviously not the case, but that's how leaks happen. I mean, it's illegal, but medical leaks happen all the time. It's actually part of the reason there's such an illegality and, like, all the HIPAA all the HIPAA stuff you hear about, is because even though for most people nobody gives a crap, for athletes, celebrities, politicians, that stuff is incredibly like uh, dangerous
Yeah.
information. So that's why it's such a huge push. And whenever it was before I was practicing, and I think it was like way in the late '90s or early 2000s, all the HIPAA stuff came in because like you cannot. Otherwise, a doctor could have said like, "Hey, the guy who's president like is super sick," and that could like
Blow up the world,
right,
basically.
or
Screw
like
up.
you could release medical information of a player, and then he
Yeah.
doesn't get a new contract, and the lawsuit against that doctor would be like, "You just screwed me out of millions." So, yes, it's illegal. Yes, it still happens. Even I catch myself sometimes being like, "Oop, don't say anything." Like, you can't say anything about that thing you saw at the hospital today. Like,
Yeah. That
it
would
just
be hard.
sometimes feels natural to not
Yeah.
go home. And how this happens is somebody goes home, they tell their wife says to a friend, like, "You won't believe what happens." And then somebody is like, "Hey, Mary Kay, this person who's this guy's wife's friend's sister now knows something about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah," and you know what I mean? Like, that's how it can get around.
Mm.
I'm sure the
Yeah.
doctor didn't call her and was like, "Hey, you're not gonna believe this," but
Yeah, it
somebody
seems it seems like every time there's a report coming out about him, he does something to kind of counter that
right.
report. Basically saying,
He's
"I'm
obviously
not
not ready to be
not
done.
me. Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
reporting that."
It doesn't mean he'll be back, but he's obviously
Yeah.
not ready to say, "I'm done." So,
Yep.
I'm
On to
wishing
the
him the best of luck.
yeah, on to the next bit of news. The 2026 win total projection is out by CBS Sports. They dropped
Early.
us to be at real early. We haven't hit the draft yet. And they dropped a 6.5 win total for 2026 for the Cleveland Browns, which is 1.5 wins more than this year. So
It's 2 more
that's
wins than our initial prediction last year. I think our
yeah.
over under to start the season was 4.5.
So we're
So they think
improving.
we're 2 games better. Yeah,
With
that's
the coach and new coaching staff, Jim Schwartz is gone, so they gave you 2 more games, or the fact that the, supposedly schedule is a little easier, so they gave you a 2-game cushion there.
yeah, our
Um,
schedule should be a little easier.
it should be because it should be easier for the next 10 years to give us a Super Bowl window of 10 years
And
because we
also
need grace.
realistically, to me, our worst case scenario is that we're starting a quarterback on this roster, but that's also any one of them should be better than last year. One of them
Yeah,
didn't even play, was injured all year. One of them was way worse than what I thought his, like, floor was, and the other one was just, you know,
it can
nothing but, like,
yeah.
flash to negative, and, like, ended up being ranked, like, one of the worst quarterbacks in recent league history. So, like, you're looking at this scenario of, like, any one of them could start, and I would expect them to be better than last year. So, I don't know outside of a crazy injury what would make me think we'll be as bad or worse than last year.
Yeah, I agree. Next bit of news, Myles Garrett was on, ESPN Magazine, I think the Body Edition or one of some type of edition, and they got to talk about his career, and he was talking about the all-time sack record. But believe it or not, we talked about that way before that came out because right when we hit that record, we say, "Hey, this is possible that he
We're
can
doing the
become the
math, yeah.
yeah." We were doing the math way before they were. But well, not probably before Miles. Miles probably was doing the math since he came in the league. Like but we did the math and we said this is possible. He just needs to get 75 more sacks. He would need 15 sacks per year for 5 years. Not to get too deep into it. Chat, if you want to get involved, you can. Do you think Miles can get to 200? He'll need 201 to break Bruce Smith? Yeah, Bruce Smith's 200 sack record. So he'll need 15 for the next 5 years to get the record. Possible, right?
I 100% think it's possible, but that is a tall task to consider, like, that many years with 15 is a lot. That's like I
Yes.
know he just set that record, but 15 is, like, kind of his average, and to maintain that over all those years with enough health to hit it, I wouldn't bet on it, but I'm not sure there's been anybody recently who's got a better chance of getting it than he does.
I agree. I think he has a chance. If I'm not gonna, like you said, I'm not gonna bet. I guess at 15 a year, I think he averages. I think I saw 15 a year. So yeah, he's right on it. And I think overall, you would hope that they get more talent around him and they get in a position to score points. So that'll give him more opportunities to get it. Because what made it special, a lot of people forget, what made this year
Right.
special is that he didn't get a lot of opportunities, pass opportunities to get it. He took advantage. He ate every opportunity he can get to get a sack when someone threw a pass, because our offense was so bad. Teams were just like basically sitting on him with just handing the ball off.
You're right. I have a stat in front of me that said earlier his pass rush numbers versus like the other two who had this record before, and I
Oh
just
yeah,
it's not in front of me anymore, but I was like, shoot. But it was essentially like he had basically 100 less total pass attempts to get these sacks than TJ Watt, and who else had it before him? Strahan.
yep,
And so that's just like, you're right. If the offense gets better, and again, no matter who's starting quarterback this year, I expect it to be a little bit better. But if it gets ex- exceptionally better, then he's got a much better shot. If they were a great offense, at least a couple of the next 5 years, he's got a way better shot of hitting this
yep,
record.
yeah. And you would think they scored what 15 and 16 points per game in the last couple of years.
Pathetic.
If you can
Yeah,
go up to 20, that gives them a more of a shot. Even if you're not winning,
sure.
if you can give 20 points per game, that keeps you in games, that gives you him a shot to get closer.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
we'll see though. It's going to be great to watch him play. Hopefully he stays here for a long time. That means they need to find a quarterback and win more so he can be encouraged to stay. Next topic, quarterback draft has shades of 2025, meaning one person
Yeah.
and that's it. On
Yeah,
top.
and it's really, but it's not only that, although that is the theme. It's like last year was a Cam Ward and then the field. But what I also think it is similar is in a way where last year there's a bunch of guys that people were just so unsure of. It was like, well, Tyler Shuck, who turned out to be pretty good in the games he played, is like got all of the tools of a quarterback, but there is that injury history and age and just something super shifty that would like turn a bunch of people off. Jackson Dart was like, oh, a lot of upside, but so unknown because like the system he was in, the lack of ability to like translate him. Guys like Sanders, who was just kind of an anomaly based on not only his status like socially, but also like he was a kind of a enigmatic player in terms of like he did some crazy things in college. There was a lot of people not convinced that you could play that way in the pros. And then in the end, these quarterbacks went all over the board, including like even guys like Quinn Ewers, who got a few games with Miami. I don't know, you know, what his future will look like. But you just had all these guys, a Jalen Milrow who ended up going as high as the 3rd round as just basically a developmental tool process. That's kind of what I see in this draft. There's guys who at one point were rated much higher and had higher expectations, and because of their season, either injuries, fall off for themselves, fall off for like the team they played for, or something, they just are now scattered and it's a one-man race. But there's a bunch of guys I think like last year will be intriguing. There's like a Will Howard, there's a, Jalen Milrow, there's a Jackson Dart. There are guys like that in this draft who you're like, one team is going to like him. He's going to go somewhere and maybe he'll have a chance. I
Yeah.
just think between like Ty Simpson, Lenora Sellers, Drew Aller, like there are those guys who are like, well, at one point they looked pretty good. So 2nd, 3rd round, could I take a flyer and might they end up playing even as soon as their first year? I think it's going to be that kind of a quarterback draft, which is a little bit crazy given the situation we are in specifically,
Do you
because
do you
we've
think
taken 2 of those guys
yeah.
in the last year alone.
Do you think one of those guys are gonna come up like Jackson Dart did? Someone's
I
gonna
do.
trade into the first?
Yeah.
Yeah, me
I
too.
think I think the process is gonna play out, and I think people said, like, for instance, Lenora Sellers, people were pretty
Yes.
impressed with after the Senior
Yep.
Bowl, specifically because he was healthy again, and I think that has shades of, like, Quinn Ewers, who didn't come up, but I could see
Nussmeier.
it affecting him more.
Yeah. I see Nussmeier, man. I can see him rocketing up when someone seeing his
Oh
talent.
yeah, I'm
pro
sorry. I
day.
said Sellers. I meant to say Nussmeier. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I said because I kind of figured that's what you're talking about. I see
yeah.
him. I can see him jumping even Simpson, Ty, because I think he just has raw tools, and we talked about it with Barry Shuck. He just got screwed because Brian Kelly was just not a good coach, and he got hurt.
And I said a lot of this was team based. Like the team was not what they were the year before, and that affected them. And I think that's a big deal. But yeah. Sorry, I kept saying for some reason the North Seller stuck in my head. But yeah, like those guys, Nussmeier, Aller. I think there's going to be somebody that rises, and I think it's going to be an excuse, but there is a reason to go along with why a lot of these people fell.
Yep.
In their season.
KP Young on Facebook someone said Sanders is better than any quarterback in this draft. That person was Emory Hunt from CBS Sports. He said there is not even Fernando Mendoza. I have a higher grade on Shedeur Sanders than I do anybody in this draft class. Yeah, that's what I did when I said interesting. Okay,
interesting opinion. I mean, it's just so hard to tell because like there were guys like Mel Kiper probably has Sanders higher than everybody in this draft class because he had him like right behind Ward, and what was his name? Bucky Brooks had him number 1 over Cam Ward. So of course there's going to be some people if they really believed that.
Yeah.
But after seeing him play, I don't know how you justify that.
I did. I was watching this new. It's called Sumer something. It's a new all AI generated database. It's a boring podcast for most people, but I find it interesting.
But their website's amazing.
Their website is amazing. It's an amazing website. A lot of data if you're into that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I like it because it's an analytics site, but if you looked at it like their draft guide, it doesn't come off as like it's like this is numbers based, but it's so visually appealing and it really explains why they're ranked where they're ranked. It's a cool site.
Yeah, they had a couple guys on their podcast, and they said the thing that Mendoza isn't a full 100% bulletproof. They said that his sacks is concerning, that he didn't get rid of the ball quick enough, and that he did run into a lot of sacks in college. And he said that that's not gonna get news because he was so good at throwing the ball and the offense was so explosive, it got ignored. But he said coming into the league, that's something that most likely he's going to have to work on. So,
and on the other side of it, though, too, there's people like I've been listening a little bit to like Mike Renner, Todd McShay, Dane Brugler, and like Dane Brugler is his clear number 1, McShay 2. Obviously, everybody pretty much has him as their number 1, but a lot of them have him ranked higher in the draft overall than even Cam Ward. I think Mike Renner said he likes to do like his 3-year comparison. So he said like his 3-year right now was Caleb Williams number 1, Drake May number 2. I think he said Mendoza number 3, and then Bo Nix, Jaden Daniels, Cam Ward. So he has Mendoza well over Cam Ward in his 3-year comparison. So it is pretty variable. Realistically, if you're one of those guys that had Sanders ranked in the first round, then you may have him still up there, but I don't know. I think that's the pretty minority at this point for like analysts.
Yeah. Real quick, back to Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett averaged about approximately 0.936 sacks per game over his first 9 seasons. He's averaging 16 sacks per year. So if he continues, that's going to be an interesting record to witness. Greg says, do y'all think it's a big deal for quarterbacks to seem to opt out of throwing at the combine? Ooh.
I mean, I don't think it is. I would put it this way. If I was a quarterback who wasn't Mendoza, I would be throwing at the combine, because if you don't, it immediately looks like you're just not willing to show your stuff. And so I know some have. Usually you look good throwing in those situations, pro day, combine, both. I know you don't always throw to your own guys, and people are worried about like, what if you don't connect? I don't think the scouts are watching if you complete these passes. I think they want to see the ball come out of your hand.
Yeah,
Is it the
I
right
agree.
trajectory? Is it where it should have landed, whether the receiver gets there or not? I just think don't overthink it. But I just expect the top guys have been opting out for a minute, and it really only becomes relevant, I think, if there's like a tiebreaker. Like if you are somebody who played hurt a little bit this year, you better throw because it looked like during your season tape, you didn't have the arm that you probably really have.
Yeah, and it's a problem if you're like Tyson Simpson, right? Who's
You
got
gotta
quite
show yourself.
you started off great and then you ended kind of horribly. So you need to give them another good impression. Like Mendoza has been putting zip on the ball since I mean, you go back to Cali when he
Yeah,
was
he's never
in
gonna throw.
Cal.
What does he have to
Yeah.
gain by
He
throwing,
doesn't
right?
yeah. So it's hit and
But then
miss.
I
Like
get
Shador should have threw because I think that would
yes,
have helped him. I think the fact that Shador
100%.
didn't throw made it look like scouts like this dude, and they know more than we do. They see his tape, they see his footwork, and they said there's a lot of questions there. And the fact that you didn't throw, are you trying to hide something? So Shador should have threw. That would have helped him.
Yep,
Uh,
yep,
next
agreed. And
topic.
then
Go
the
ahead.
only way you get away with it if you're not like just Cam Ward or Mendoza, like somebody that's like, okay, I've already been told by guys that I have nothing left to gain. The only other way I think you can lose is if, I mean, you can get out of it easily is if you're kind of known that that's your trait. Like if you're Josh Allen level arm, maybe you can say I'm not going to throw because like that's already my reputation. Even so, I probably would still throw if I had the
Yeah.
chance.
A lot
Really
of
wild
guys
people.
do. Yeah, Greg said it's not like they're going to have the same guys in the NFL to throw to. A lot of those quarterbacks, like Mendoza said, he wants to highlight his receivers. So, not like the two receivers is going to be out in the draft anyways, like Cooper Jr. and
Yeah,
Surratt or whatever his name is. They're
it
going to
looks
be
good.
drafted anyways. Yeah,
It looks good
Cooper
to throw.
Jr. Amari Cooper Jr. is my guy.
That's
And I
crazy,
need
by
the
the
Browns
way.
to get him. I need the Browns to get him. Speaking of more quarterback talk, Mekhi Willis and rumors, Jeremy Flowers and Mary Kay Cabot again with rumors of Willis being tied to the Cleveland Browns and the Browns loving him, and the Browns are going to do anything they can to get him. Them and 5 other teams. I saw Arizona this morning are interested in him too.
Mhm.
Um,
And the big rumor for a while, the longest standing one was Miami.
yeah, and that's still there because of the connection with Green Bay's head coach and GM in Miami.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't know. I still don't know if they would go that direction. It just feels like a really like convoluted thing to add another free agent to the room that costs money. You know, it's different if they were to like decide like a guy fell to us in the draft. I'd still be surprised by that, but at least it's basically free to start.
Yeah,
Like Shador Sanders was free. He costs nothing. Dylan Gabriel, basically free. He was pick 100 essentially. Like, but giving who knows what. I don't think he's going to get as paid as much as other people think, but let's say he gets like 15 to 20 million a year. That's a lot more money than taking a flyer in the draft. And I think unless you're ready to just bring him in, make him your starter, you know that's going to be your direction. I just can't imagine doing it and putting him in a competition at that point.
yeah, I agree. James said it too over on Facebook. Miami, Arizona, Jets, Browns, and Pittsburgh, he believes, are in the bidding for them. I'm surprised Pittsburgh. I mean, freaking their head coach is big on Howard. He talked about Howard in the press conference. So I wonder if they're gonna. And Aaron Rodgers may return. We'll see.
Right.
With
That's
Pittsburgh.
another one. Like, I don't see them doing it unless they know Rodgers isn't coming back. And they're
Yeah,
like, we can't just count on Howard. What was he, a 6th round pick?
yeah.
Like, whether you like him or not, like, if you're going to walk into a season and that's the only option you really give yourself, that's not
Mhm.
great. Um,
Greg said, "Can we afford him?" Yes, you can afford him because
Technically,
technically
yeah.
you can because you don't pay him the money this year. The book it will come off the books next year, which is where
The
you
Andrew
get
Berry
booking
special,
money. Yeah.
1 million base salary plus bonus or whatever, like he did with all those other guys.
Yeah, so you can afford them, and the way that Barry cooks the books is you always pay next year, right? So you'll be like
Yep.
this much this year, and then we'll backload it later.
The big
So
deal is this the year for that? Like, do you look at that guy and go,
Barry said we're
he's
going to
better
talk
than my
about
options
yeah.
for next year
Yeah.
and
Barry
going
talked
forward?
about that a little bit. We're going
maybe?
to talk
Yeah, we'll
about
get to
that because he did talk about free agency, how they're going to handle that. He threw some hints, or maybe not,
But
because he lies a lot too. So
I do think a fun thing to mention though is the Jets are looking at him, and I'm like, the closest comp I can think to Malik Willis is the player that just failed for the Jets last season,
Fields
except for the only difference between them is
he
Fields has
knows how
a
to.
much
Yeah,
longer career of like at least moderate success. So I'm not saying that Malik Willis can't be better than Fields, but it would be funny to like go from Fields, completely fail that like experiment, and the next year go to like, well, what about a guy like Fields who's played way less? Like, I guess that would be a very Jets move.
uh, Brown's Film Breakdown crew really high on Willis a lot. They broke down his film, and they're like, Mon can, not that he's like great, but they think he can fit what Todd wants to do here perfectly.
I am
But
not high
again,
on him, but I'm higher on
um,
him than anybody in our room
currently,
currently.
yeah.
So,
So let's switch topics here. It's Combine Week. First topic, we're going to talk about the combines. Todd McShay's top 2 tiers. He has 2 tiers of great people in the draft. Great and great. Well, greater and great. All right. I mean, you would know more than I do. You got the cat back. Look at that. She wants to be part of the show.
just launched over on top of me. Jesus.
So the first tier is Love, Reese, Bailey, and Downs. I like that because you got 2 Buckeyes in there. And the fact that I'm a Downs advocate. So I like that tier. I like tier 1. And then tier 2 is Tate, Fano, Lemon, Mariagua,
Yeah,
close,
the tackle.
and the tackle, and Mendoza. That's his tier. And the rest are just
And he made a point of saying, like, this is my pre-combine tier. And he also said, like, he pointed out specifically the combine is the hugest event for his calendar because even though he's been watching the film before the combine, 3 things happen at the combine. 1, you get the real measurables and medicals. 2, you get to see guys side by side, and it changes your perception greatly to see those 2 top tackles do their drills next to each other and really get an idea of like, okay, their athletic profile is not based on who they played in their college season, but like just them, against their peers, not against defenders. And the third one was all the information from the interviews and stuff starts getting leaked to him. And that's of course a huge one for the big board because if you hear this guy's bad in the film room or he has a crappy attitude or whatever, it drops you.
yeah.
But I did think that it was interesting to see early on. We always talk about blue chip players and, who is that first tier? Because last year, a lot of people had like 5 or 6 guys in that tier. It varied, but I think he had about 6 guys in the tier at the top. And this year, it looks like, he's only got 4 pre combine anyway. I doubt anybody sneaks up into it, but they could. And then that second tier are like the other guys that are like maybe not quite the same level, but are just like the top guys next, right? They might not be blue chip guys. They might not be those that top like blue chip tier you talk about, but they're his like people that he feels are kind of a lock. It was
Yeah.
interesting though to see where they're at. Like Love is a running back, and Ashton
high.
Genty was up there. I have not heard anybody say that they have Ashton Genty so far ranked higher than they have Love. And Ashton Genty was in a lot of people's blue chip tier.
Yeah.
So it was like, and then Reese, a lot of a blue chipper, but people aren't even sure which position he'll play. Very much like Travis Huntery, where it's like, yeah, I guess blue chip talent, but like I'm not even sure what position he's gonna play. And then Bailey and Downs, like I
Downs
guess the big
is,
one for me is Downs because it's
yeah.
not a prime position. It's not an elite position, which makes me think this is the one blue chipper who you might get outside of the top 4 and maybe even somewhere in the top 10 or 12.
I saw someone mock him at 2 to the Jets.
I would be shocked. I would be absolutely shocked. Although, like talent-wise, it's there. But
Because I think a lot too is because they had 0 interceptions, and they think they probably put 2 and 2 together because they're the only
Yeah.
team last year on defense that didn't have an interception. So they're thinking they need people playmakers over than that. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I mean, Reese at number 2 would be just as good. I mean, if
Right.
you're
And this also
yeah,
mimics
I
last
don't
year in a way with the quarterback, because I heard a lot of people who are like, yeah, Cam Ward's going number 1, Andy's the number 1 quarterback, but I don't have him in my top 5 players.
yeah.
Similarly to Mendoza, like he's not a blue chip player. He's just the best quarterback. He's an A-level player, but not an A-plus guy. I think the other thing that stood out to me on this was the Browns are picking 6th. A lot of us want to go lineman
Receiver.
or receiver.
Yeah.
It's kind of good to see that if that is their direction, there's 2 of those guys from both positions in that second tier, and the
Yep.
Browns, pick 6th. So that is a typical place to get a second tier guy. But it also just gave me that pause because seeing a receiver go that high, usually you're looking if a receiver is going to get picked in the top, like around top 5, like even if it's 6, 7, you're usually hoping he is like a blue chip prospect. And that doesn't always work out, but you're hoping to have a like Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison level of like athlete. And I don't think Tate or Lemon are that. Lemon's a little bit small in the stature, and Tate is not that explosive, like physical freak that you're
It's saying
looking
that
at.
his hands are just really good. Tate's
Yeah,
hands are
he can
really
run his
good. That's
routes. He
yeah,
can
he can run his
catch
route, he can
passes.
catch. I think he had
Lemon
one
runs
bad
incredible routes and knows how to get open, and it's just a
yeah,
overall playmaker, but they're just not like
6, top
they're
10,
they're not a
7.
guy you wanna pick
Yeah.
at 6, to be honest,
That's why a lot of people are coming around now saying the Browns might trade down to like 10 and then trade down again to like 12. Fans are gonna have a heart attack. But if you go back upon what we're talking about here, if there's only certain blue chip players and the
Yep,
Browns feel like I can trade back and get the same tackle,
exactly.
exact tackle type of prospect,
The
and
the
I get
draft is
picks next year, let's do it.
right. The draft is not about picking the best player available. The draft is about the best way to build your team, and last year, the best player available probably was Travis Hunter, and actually, the next best guy might have been, what was his name? The edge rusher that went to, Abdul Carter. Those
Yeah.
may have been the best 2 players at that point, but we both had Mason Graham just after him, and you were able to get that guy plus
Q.
Quinshon Judkins
Yeah.
plus a player to be named this year. That's
Yep.
the better way to build a team, not just getting
100%.
Travis Hunter. Even if he had worked out, having 1 star is not as good as having
3
3 starters who
or
could
2 and a
also
half.
potentially be stars, depending on how it plays out.
KP on Facebook brings up a good question here, and I thought about this myself. He said, "With JOK possibly never playing again, if Reese falls to 6, does Cleveland look at him? You might hold the card for a little bit."
It's hard not to pick what most people think is the number 1 talent in the draft
Yeah,
if he falls to you, but to me, what you just said, if Reese falls to 6th, yes, he's a blue chip guy, but you have Schlesinger and
maybe Bush,
and
because Bush
Garrett
is a free agent.
and potentially some others in those positions. Is it the best build for your team to add another piece there, or is the best thing somebody going, "Holy cow, Reese is available at 6. I'll
Give
give
you
you
yeah.
10 and next year's first to take him." To me, that's the move, and so I'm with you what you just said. I am now officially currently, it might change
Yeah,
after
mine
I
too.
get deeper in the draft. I'm currently in trade down mode if it's available, because even if you what if somebody's from 8 says, "We'll give you 8 and our second," which would be like 40th, to take Reese, and then you get to pick Tate or your lineman there,
Yeah,
plus
you might
that
be able to
extra.
take Fano and Denzel. Denzel, I was gonna call him Denzel Washington. Denzel, Boston. I mean, so you
Yeah,
can get your Fano, you can get a receiver, and then probably a
and then have
pick next
39 and
year.
40?
Yeah,
39 and 42 in the draft?
yeah.
You
So
can
you got
take
2
a
seconds
guard and you can take a guard and another tackle, and you're like,
or a
"Oh my gosh,
safety.
we just got 2 tackles, a guard, and a" yeah, or a safety.
You
You
might
get 2
say, yeah, because
tackles,
you
a
do need a
safety, and a
safety.
receiver.
Yeah.
If you have that many picks, you're not desperate to pick all offense anymore. You can actually
Yep.
do what they did last year and swing at a defensive player. But anyways, the moral of the story, without getting too deep into it, is depending on how your board falls, maybe you move to B-level players, but you may be able to bring in 4 starters in the first
1 year.
2 rounds
Can you
on
imagine you
either
have
side of the
4
ball.
starters and then you go to last year's draft. I mean, there was 4 starters there. I mean, that's 8 starters in 2 drafts for Andrew
2
Berry.
years, yeah, and Andrew Berry is looking
That's
like a
how you
genius.
that's how you fix the Watson ordeal. Is
Correct.
you get 8 quality starters in 2 years.
And no matter what, you just set your team up for the future. If one of these quarterbacks in the room doesn't show enough this year to be the starter, now you're in a position where you're not desperate for talent, and maybe next year you can trade a first and a second to get up and get the quarterback you
Yep.
wanted or whatever.
Or Jeremiah Smith.
Or you bring in yeah,
Jeremiah
or
Smith.
that, and then
Who knows?
somebody will come and play quarterback for you.
Yeah,
That
I
that is
will
putting
come play
yourself in a
quarterback with
position
you.
that's putting yourself in a position where a quarterback will go, "I'll go play in Cleveland with
I'll
the
go
new line
play.
they
I'll
just put
just
together and
throw it
those
up to
receivers."
Jeremiah Smith and Tate. I mean, what the heck? What the heck's going on over there in Cleveland? Don says his opinion is you have to come out of the first round with either Lemieux or Freeling. Yeah, basically an offensive lineman. I agree with that. If you can get 2, if you trade back, can you imagine getting 2 and a receiver? That covers your whole bit in one night. That
Yeah,
would be crazy.
and you can never plan on a trade back because you just don't know who wants especially the farther back you are, the harder it is to plan. When you're
Yeah.
at 2 and everybody knows Ward is going 1, then people can give you trade offers because they know everybody's on the table but Ward. That's what happened last year, and 3 weeks before the draft, essentially, AB made the Jacksonville deal, and it just didn't become official, um, but at 6, you just don't know how the board will fall, so nobody's gonna be like, "I'm gonna trade up to 6 to get Carnell Tate." If he went 3rd, you'd be like, "Uh-oh,"
Yep.
"I traded
Yeah,
up because I wanted him."
I saw Tate go to Tennessee a couple times and some drafts that I mock, just to see. I just do let it run by itself just to see what they pick.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of scenarios and Greg asks, how much faith do you have that Barry can nail the draft for the second year in a row? As much faith as I had in him last year, and he surprised me. So I'm going to go into that type of mentality again. I mean, I don't think, I
How would
think
I
he's in a
phrase it?
position to where if you're at 6 and you draft best player available, you win. If you trade back and you get more talent, you pinpoint the right talent, you win. I don't think he's in a lose situation. He's just got to make the right move.
Yeah, so here's how I would put this, and there I have 2 things to back it up. 1, last year's draft was better than this year's draft. It just was. Like,
Yeah.
everything I've read about it so far, and like I said, I haven't dove deep into players specifically that we would be targeting in each round, which is eventually kind of what we do as this process goes on. But we wait because free agency let's say they bring in Linderbaum, like we talked about it earlier. I don't think they will, but if they do, well, then you're not drafting a center probably anywhere because you got Whippler, Linderbaum, so no point in diving deep into players until free agency hits in 2 weeks and combine is over because there's so much more information for you, right? But the 2 things going against Barry is 1, last year's draft, he knocked it out of the park. And I'm not saying you can't repeat that, but he got 4 basically immediate starters and potentially still landed a quarterback in that class. So that's like, you're just not going to do much better than like, I got my starting tight end, starting defensive lineman, starting running back, and a starting like defensive rookie of the year linebacker. Like, if you think you can just repeat that, that is a long shot. And I just don't believe that's an
It
easy
would be
one,
hard.
even with 2 first-round picks, because it's just hard to repeat that good of it's like watching a guy sink like 12 for 14 threes. And you're like, will he do it next game? Probably
Mm.
not. That was just an incredible performance, right? He obviously can do it, but expecting it is kind of too optimistic. But B, this draft, I have just seen 5, 6 different analysts who are deep in the draft, including like Brugler, McShay, Renner, a bunch of guys from Athletics, CBS, independent sources who have all like had the same sentiment. This draft is not only doesn't have the power positions up top, it's got talent, but it's not in like quarterback, receiver, edge rusher like the way you want it. Um, Cornerback is another one. offensive
Yeah.
tackle. Like, it's not the high-end talent you want, but also last year people felt like you only have a couple high-end guys and there's a big drop-off, but that drop-off went through, like, the top
Long.
75 where there's, like there are guys in the top 75 who will be day 1 starters, and that's usually held to, like, the 1st round, most of the 2nd round, and then there's a giant dip. So,
Kinda
like, you
explains why
just
Barry was so good because he had
Yeah.
so much options to get talent.
And he did a good job of compiling the picks to be
Yeah.
good, and that's credit to him. It wasn't just like, well, he just was lucky with all those picks. Like he made trades, he earned those picks.
Yeah.
But it's just a bummer that in a year like never hurts to have 2 first rounders. If they can get rid of one for something next year, I could see him doing it because from what it sounds like, there's like less than 20 first round grades on a lot of people's boards, and there's only like 4 total, like, superstar level guys.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can get out of it, you do, but it doesn't mean you still can't get multiple, like, 2 or 3 day 1 starters. You just gotta pick really well because the talent's not as easy.
Yeah, and Sam agrees with us on the Saturday show. Browns Morning Brew, 10 a.m. every Saturday. He says, I think Barry will definitely trade down so we can fill more holes in our roster, especially since Barry did that, traded down last year, and that's what saved his job and the reason he
And
had
he's a
his
big
best
believer in
draft.
picks.
Yeah,
He's right. I think I think Sam's right. Like, we know Barry's a big believer in picks. He's got 10 of them again this year. Every draft he has. That's why I've said for years, like, I do not believe he wanted to give up that many picks for, Watson because he just loves picks so much,
yeah,
and he just every year he tries to get as many as he can so he can move around the draft and, like, have some more freedom. If he has the option to trade down, he'll have it. I just don't know if the star power is there. The best thing you can hope is a guy like he doesn't believe Tate is the superstar worth 6, which will be really disappointing for me, or any of those guys, or like a guy like Downs, who like I think we both think is incredibly talented, but
yeah,
he goes, I'm not spending 6 on a safety, but if this team will, I'll take your pick
yep,
for it. So if the option is there, it's hard to believe he wouldn't take it in a year like this year. They
yeah.
have a new coach, so they're not in the same hurry as they were last year,
Yep,
where it's like, we need to win now or we're all gonna get fired. Now I feel like he's more in a level where he's like, I just gave myself some grace. We have our first year head coach who's not gonna be like, in some kind of panic move.
well,
So
hopefully not. I mean, sometimes our owner gets a little impatient. Uh, hopefully he doesn't think. We
fair.
hit all those without even hitting those. You think it's a weak draft? Ty Simpson, rumors. Jeremy Flowers, MKC, Mike Greener, love him. McShay had him number 1 at one point. Ty Simpson is probably the most mysterious person in the draft, in my opinion, because he's only played, 15, 16 games. And normally, a person that plays that many games and tries to hit the NFL, they fail. I'll show you Anthony Richardson, Jamarcus Russell, all those people that will play more than 1 year, they kind of fold. But he
Which
had such a good front end of the year. But the last 3 to 4 games, he seemed to get exposed, and that's like leaving a bad taste in most people's mouths.
and it should. I think besides the fact that he started the season great to the point where McShay was like, I might have him over Mendoza, and others felt pretty highly on him to the fact where you're like, oh, a really rough ending. I think that even gets shaded by the fact that there's that giant list of guys who only had 1 year of starts, whether successful or not. The failure rate on those guys is so close to 100% for
Yeah.
those guys, and everybody points to, like, the Mitch Trubisky's and these guys that they played 1 year, they showed so much physical talent, but you didn't see very much of them, and then they go to the NFL, and they need more time than the NFL will be willing to give them, and they get in early, and they are a mess, or they were never the guy to begin with. It's pretty it's pretty eye-opening, the numbers that go with you have under 2 years of starting, quality reps before you enter the draft. That's what makes it so intriguing to me, though, because why did this guy come out? You
Yeah.
don't think Miami would have given him the same 5 million they seem to give anybody
Everybody.
who's willing to come there. So when a guy like that decides to come out, when I got it 5 years ago, when you were the guy who's like, "This is my shot. My draft status is like, I got some buzz. I don't wanna risk injury or, like, having a mediocre season next year. I'm gonna go out." That's not the case anymore. Guys stay in because you can get paid 4 or 5 million just to stay. It gives me so much interest of, like, did someone truly they do that NFL panel of, like, "Where might I go if I come out?" Did people truly tell him, like, "You're a first rounder, is that why he came out?" Is
Um,
he like the Jackson Dart of this class where they're like, "Yeah, you come out, somebody's gonna pick you."
Maybe they saw the options and said, "Yeah, I think you're better than Nutzmeyer and Aller, who would be the top 4, and you have a shot to go." But then you like I said, like, you run into a risk of, like, if you get picked by a team who's gonna start you right away, it's gonna unless you just had bad luck for 4 or 5 weeks straight, you better
Well, he had
hope
some
like it.
injuries. He
Yeah.
did have some injuries. He had a back injury and something else, like a I forget, an elbow injury or something. He had an injury that I can't recall and a back injury. So, like, I don't know if, like, his because sometimes they just get bad advice, but a lot of them talk to that whatever that draft committee, and they tell him like, here's where you're generally graded, and it helps them decide whether to come out or not. I would wonder if, like, somebody told him, like, "Yeah, NFL will understand you were playing injured there. They'll put more stock in your tools and your athleticism and what you did early, what you're capable of. So, like, you'll get drafted." I just don't know. Otherwise, he got really bad advice because
Yeah.
how do you come out when you're worth so much money in unless you have some sense that people really are going to take you?
Yeah, he had suffered a rib injury during the game
Okay,
against,
that was it.
Indiana, and then an right elbow injury, multiple times, and lower back issues during the latter half of 2025.
So I do
So
remember
then
a little bit.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
so
so, like,
that could
I
be
could see
why,
somebody
okay.
saying, like, the NFL will understand that those were injuries. They saw you healthy, they saw you injured, you played through it, you'll get picked. So, like, for that reason, I would be scared to death of taking this pick high, but I also would get the upside why one team might say, I mean, this guy, had he not got hurt, would have been picked right up top, and we're picking, like a very Jackson Dart thing where it's like, you know,
Mm, yeah,
we
yeah.
believe his talent level is like top 5 in the future, and we're picking 28th.
Yeah, I
Where I
was gonna
think,
say, I feel like he has a Mac Jones vibe, and I typed in real quick, what are his comps? And it's right there. Mac Jones is his comp. So,
wow.
yeah, so I had that vibe. I was gonna say that, but I wanted to make sure I wasn't gonna sound like an idiot. But yeah, Mac Jones, Brock Purdy, and Tony Romo are his comps right now, which is, I mean, pretty good. I mean, Tony Romo
Pro
had
comps,
a good,
yeah.
yeah, pro
I
comps.
always get a
So
little tripped out by comps because 'cause I'm wondering, like, are you comping what you think he'll be in the pros, or are you
yeah, I
comping
wondered
because
that.
some people comp, like, a similar prospect, right?
Okay,
So
yeah, I'll get you that draft prospect right now. But yeah, I'm a little worried about that too, and I'm worried that because there's been a lot of smoke with Cleveland with him. Uh, he's graded a 6.28, which will eventually be a starter. Yeah, Mac Jones. This is NFL comparison.
well,
Um,
okay. Mac Jones
so
this year or Mac Jones before this year?
good question. Wait,
I'm just
Mac
kidding.
Jones eventually be a starter comp?
All I'm
Because
saying is I could see him being one of the risers,
yes,
but we should all be very nervous if he is picked here because it's the sketchiest way to pick a quarterback is to pick somebody with that little experience.
yeah, and it's proven that it doesn't succeed. And like, what would work out for him perfectly, and I thought about this today, is if he gets drafted by the Rams. He's good.
Yeah, it's so annoying.
Yeah,
It's if
he'll get
like,
drafted by the Rams, sit behind Stratford for another year, learn, and then come in, and then he'll be with one of the best offensive minds. He'll be fine.
yeah,
Yeah, if I was a
he'd be a
quarterback
guy,
coming out, that's what I would want.
and they just, won a lot of games, like, and probably are thinking another Super Bowl run, one more if they can. but it still doesn't count out the fact that they might also be looking at their future. So
Yeah. So you think your riser is going to be Ty? I think my risers.
no, not specifically. I just think he fits that mold of like he was good. Then if the drop off really was injured, and then people get to see him throw and like
Healthy.
drill and all that healthy, and he's good in the room, they might be willing to like disregard that. He just seems like the type of guy that a team will reach on. I would call him more of a reach than a riser,
Yeah,
but I could
that's a good
see
point.
those scenarios. People are quarterback desperate. That's what I felt about Jackson Dart, and I still think he's a sketchy pick. He was kind of picked as a little bit of a reach because it was kind of unknown, and he was like athletic. He won some games, but he really only threw for like 50 something percent completion. So the book is still out, but I could see him being in that mold where somebody's like, I just see too much upside. I'm going to take him. So
Yeah, he's a good situation now with John over there. Hopefully, John can transform him. I think too. Part of Jackson Dart's issue was the mess up situation going out, the coaching going on there. That can always, obviously, as a Clevelander, we know coaching messes up quarterbacks. So I think he'll have a better year. Shout out to Sam, who
probably
that
more
was
than any
Sam's
position.
guy last year. I remember doing shows with Sam. He say, "We need Jackson Dart." Sam pounded the table for Jackson Dart, and unfortunately, he's
Yeah.
in New York. Sam's
Yeah,
still a
and I'm
Browns
still, like I
fan, though.
said, I'm still on the fence with him. The guy we would have missed to get him, it would have been
Carson.
J.O. It basically would have been Swessinger, sorry. That's pretty much all we would have given up to get him. So if he works out, yeah, you trade even a superstar linebacker for a quarterback. But if he does end up like not progressing as well as he could and ends up being like a middle of the back quarterback, that you can get, and so I won't feel desperate.
Yeah.
But he's better. I was worried about him, and he already is a little farther ahead than I thought he would be. So
Yeah, my riser for me personally, I think is going to be Omar Cooper Jr.,
okay.
Indiana's wide receiver. I think he has. I read an article today, and it put two and two together. To me, he has Jarvis Landry traits. Good, quick, good hands. I think I don't know how he can get in the first round because I think there's a lot of receivers going to be in the first round.
It's a receiver draft, and
Yeah,
I just
that's why
they're
I think,
missing
like,
that
if you pass
upside.
on Tate, you can there's good if you really looking into draft and you really dig deep outside of the first round, you got Cooper. I mean, even Lemon. Yeah, I would hate to pass on Lemon too because I'm high on him. But I think the
Mm.
Browns are gonna I think you're too offensive for your offensive line so much of in need that you
And there's
can't.
always outliers, but
Yeah.
you wanna get your receiver by the second round.
Yep.
There's always an amount people be like, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Yeah, like, okay, that can
Occasionally
happen
that
at any
happens.
position, any year, right? But if you look at most of the best number 1,
Second.
like, wide receiver 1 and 2s even, they mostly came out of the first 2 rounds, especially if they got good early, and so but they didn't necessarily come from the top 10. You have your Emeka Mbukas, you have your DK Metcalfs, you have a ton of guys, T. Higgins. There's a ton of guys that don't come right up at the top. You even have like Jefferson was what, the third or fourth receiver taken in his own draft.
Yeah.
Like that happens, but you don't want to wait. It's one of the positions you really don't want to wait on. You're not
Yeah,
you're not looking for a Puka Nakua. You're praying that you accidentally find one,
find him.
but you're looking up top for a receiver.
So yeah, Dan on Facebook posted because I was actually looking at receivers on PFF today on their in their draft thing because I was looking like where can we get a receiver because I'm hoping I'm with Sam. He's a big Denzel Boston guy. I got his name right. I was saying David Boston last week. That's his father. See, that's why I got it all mixed up. But Denzel
Well, all
Boston,
these names like Omar Cooper Jr., I'm thinking like
yeah,
Amari Cooper, like, oh, no,
Amari, yeah,
Omar Cooper, like, there's a
yeah.
bunch of those guys.
But yeah, he said Fields, Notre Dame. He's gonna be a riser. He's like 6 something 220. And he was in Notre Dame who didn't have a quarterback sent. I mean, they're run first and he still had a good year.
Yeah.
Cooper, Brazel, who's a burner, Sadrat, who was with Cooper, and he can catch. Bell, who's had ACL, but that might push him down because if not, he would have been high first round. But he had ACL issue. injury, and Bernard from I think Alabama. Uh, those receivers, if they come on here, they can bump Judy for receiver one, and you can get those receivers in rounds 2, maybe high 3. That's pretty deep. But
I
Sam wanted to
this
know what you thought of
this
Denzel.
this receiver draft reminds me a little bit of last year's like running back draft, where like
Yes. Oh, that's
maybe
a good
there wasn't
comparison.
maybe there wasn't the Bijan Robinson where it was like this one guy, or just like I guess in receiver world, there wasn't like the Malik Neighbors, Harrison Jr., who else, where it's just like this one guy just stands out as like amazing. But there is really good talent and it goes for a pretty long time, which I think goes to your point of like, if you really are choosing between tackle and receiver, you better look real close at like where the tackles are after pick 20
Yeah.
and into the
You
second
might
round,
wanna
because there
Daniel
will
Jeremiah
be
did
receiver
2
talent there.
Daniel Jeremiah did 2 offensive linemen in the first round, and that made me look into it, and I said, "Well, this makes sense because if you could get 2 of the best offensive linemen in the first round and then get your receivers later because 'cause they're gonna fall same comp." I mean, because if
Mhm.
Tate and Lemon are your top 2 receivers and are gone, then just get your offensive lineman and just get your rest of
Yeah.
your receivers in
Again,
the second or
it's
third
the
round.
board. How different is
Yeah.
it? Like if you have Tate, Lemon, and my guy Tyson, and they're all like an A minus grade, and then you have a bunch of other guys that are like A minus to B plus that go on for like a really long time, and then you look at your
That's
tackles and you're like, well, these two are an A. They're both right tackles, which is which we could use. It's not one of those years where it's like, well, we got to move him to the left. Like you can put him wherever he's best, wherever he's
Yep.
going to be a potential like all-star level player. And you're like, and then my drop off at tackle is like I have another A minus guy like later, and then there's a bunch of B's. Like then maybe you use that to make your decision. Like it's not always about like fitting the position. Sometimes it's just about like where's the separation of the board. And you can fail on that. You can be like, oh, because we can get a receiver later and there's a
And he's
run and you
gone.
miss the guys you want, right? It can happen. But like if since it's unpredictable, you're just really looking at it as like, what is my best chance to get the best talent?
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think about Tyson not performing in the combine or even getting checked medically?
Surprised, really surprised,
I'm
because I
more
think he's
surprised at the medical part.
when you send it to me and I posted it, the first thought I had was like, it immediately gives me like, oh, what is he hiding? Because he's sitting in a position where it's like, if he performed really well, he
He
could
could go
move
up.
himself right up in the mix as the top guy.
Yeah.
Because it's Tate, I think is the standout top guy. I've also heard some people that have Lemon won, and I've seen one person that had Tyson won. But like when you look at that mix, that's enough of a mix to make me think, well, if you just blow it out of the water in your workouts, then you can move yourself. And the fact that he's not immediately gives me like, what are you
Yeah, it's
afraid of
concerning. That's
showing?
what I thought
Right?
of. Yeah, that's
And I'm not gonna
exactly
be
what
the
I
only
thought of.
one.
Yeah.
Like GMs and scouts are gonna be like, what's
Like,
going
why
on?
don't you let us
And
see your
maybe
hamstring? Yeah.
medicals is worse because like
Yeah, medicals
I
is a lot
get it
worse.
when guys are like, I just have this elaborate pro day. I don't want to do these workouts twice. I'm not ready for one reason or another, and I'd rather show my stuff in 3 weeks. Okay, I don't love that, but like at least there's like a reasoning behind it. The medicals is
That's
weird
a
because
that's a
people
red.
do it. Almost universally, people do it.
Yeah. Even if they don't really want to, they still do it knowing that, okay, I'm gonna get a red flag here, but it's gonna get explained away. And hopefully by draft time, my pro day, it'll be washed
Right.
away.
It's your chance to explain it. If you don't test, instead what you're explaining is why you didn't test rather than saying like, "Oh,
Oh, I did
it's just
test, but
this
my
thing." Yeah.
hamstring's still a little messed up, and that's why I can't do this, but I'll be all right by my pro day.
Exactly, where it's like, "Yeah, I
Yeah.
have hamstring tendonitis. It's why I'm not running these drills because I'm really focused on the season, not this dog show."
Yep.
You know?
On to Andrew Barry's press conference with Sam touched on something I forgot to put in the notes that Q Junkins is off his walking boots, and he
Yes,
is
that was good to
healing
hear.
good, according to Andrew Barry. And that's encouraging because the big thing is he going to be ready? Is he going to be ready? Is he going to miss time like he did last year? But it seems he's on the right path to recovery, and hopefully he'll be in here. I mean, if anything, before training camp. Like the other stuff we can wait on, but training camp is the most important.
I bet we see him. Yeah, I bet we see him like by the beginning of summer. I think he's
Good.
going to be. Yeah, it's good to hear he's out of the boot. It's just because like I don't have the inside information, so now you need like news thresholds. I get why he was in the boot, by the way, too. A lot of people were worried, like, why is he still in the boot? And it's because his injury was a fracture, and it does him like no good not to let that heal as straight and as like secure as possible. And you can do a lot more activity in the boot than without it because now you've locked in that bone, and he probably could do some workouts because he was wearing the boot when it was probably not a very safe thing to do without it. But yeah, I expect him. I would be shocked if there's not some cartilage damage and some ligament damage, not tears, but probably like sprains because of the level of the injury. But all of that should be tightening up at the same time that his bone is healing. And that's just all the more reason he was probably in that boot so long. I don't think fans should be, don't quote, anything can go wrong in the medical process. We shouldn't be expecting him to miss time, even camp time. I think he should be ready to practice most of camp.
And they get 2-3 weeks early because they have a new coaching staff. Something to keep in mind.
Yep.
Or a week or two early. On to the Andrew Barry's press conference. First thing he says, they will be aggressive in free agency, but not too aggressive. The aggressiveness is going to come next year when they actually have a lot more money to spend because Watson's money is going to free up a lot more when they get that insurance payout. And they're not on the book as much with that quarterback that they end up picking. So aggressive. So they probably say if there's a need there, we're going to be aggressively pursue it, but we're not going to overly pay for somebody. Is what I got out of it. Which they're known to do.
We don't have. We don't know if we have a quarterback. They're not going to go all in on spending money and losing potential ability to get one later. If they do find out they have a quarterback, they won't regret not spending because now they're like, oh my gosh, if one of the guys on this team can play, especially if it's one of the guys on a rookie deal, then you're like, now we got all the money we need because we have a rookie quarterback for 3 more seasons, and we didn't even have a first round like payment category on him. We have 100 and 150 payment category on him. So like the idea of spending a lot this year is silly. The only thing you should really be spending on is like setting yourself up for the quarterbacks in the building or your future quarterback. And I just don't think that's a high priced free agent type of a position. And defensively, you don't have enough weaknesses to spend high price. Offensively, the big weaknesses you'd spend money on would be there isn't a receiver class worth spending on, and it would be line. But if they spend on anything, I would think they would bring in like one guy.
Yeah.
And then some fill-ins, some like flex, maybe basically what you would consider like a what do you call that?
Guy in the line.
You need what were we calling like the quarterback all the time?
Backup.
Like the one you want to just hold the spot. For some reason I'm so blank on the name.
Fill in. I don't know.
I can't think of it.
Yeah.
We'll come with it, but it's literally like you need a guy to just step in and play that position this year until you're young, until you draft somebody better, pick up somebody better.
Yeah, that's gonna bother me. I
or
know that term. I know what term you're talking about. It's gonna bother me.
or
We gotta move on.
one of your young guys you already have, like Zach Zinter or whoever, Jenkins, Whippler, whoever is ready to play. And so it's like
that, yeah, and that's we're going to go into. Before then, we're going to KP hit something that's real funny. You think Ayuk is on Barry's radar? Brandon Ayuk.
He was.
No, I hope not. That dude doesn't want to play. That dude was given $1 million to play, and he's not playing. I do not want that here, especially with Jerry Jeudy. Mixing them two together in your receiver room with a young quarterback who him and Jerry Jeudy probably had issues with at the beginning, I'm good, man. Don't add any more problems.
I just think that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
He we tried to trade for him. We were gonna give him that kind of a deal, and
Yeah, so
instead,
yeah.
he refused to come here, essentially. He took that deal in San Francisco. He absolutely looked like it wasn't worth it. Now the next year, right after signing him to a new deal, he's ready to be out, like, and he's coming off injuries. Like, there's nothing about that situation that makes you think you trade for him unless the 49ers are like,
Yeah.
"We are so done with this guy that we'll just literally give
No,
him
they
to
they
you," and you're like,
cut him. He's done. I
"Oh, they
think
cut
that I'm
him
pretty
already."
sure they cut him, yeah. He was on Instagram Live recording himself driving, holding a chocolate ice cream while
Yeah,
melting,
I
doing
just think
nothing else.
unless
I don't want that.
you are free, he's just not a guy that
Yeah,
fits here
I'm good.
anymore.
Yeah, he's good. James Frank mentioned something about Trent Williams, but he is he did not reach an agreement. He is a free agent. But my issue with Trent Williams is if you go back to what Andrew Berry said, they want to go younger. So I would be surprised if they go after a guy like Trent Williams who's older,
He
but
feels like a
maybe
win now guy.
yeah, and he's definitely not winning now here. We're a couple ways.
He feels like, "Oh, man, if we could just fill this one piece, we're all
We're
set to make
good.
a run," and I just think Andrew Berry even has come to the reality of, like,
That's
the
a
team
Kansas
isn't.
City move. Kansas City, the Chiefs.
Yeah,
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 that's that type of
that's a
move.
Kansas City,
Yeah,
Buffalo,
Buffalo.
um, Houston, like, we were pretty close. We've won playoff games.
Yep.
We need to make sure we cover this spot.
Speaking of offensive line, Barry addressed the offensive line, saying that they're going to do the Chicago Bears model of how to build a line, which is it's going to be a mix of developmental guys, vets that they probably pick up, whether unrestricted, just $7 million guys, $5 million guys, and people that are already on
Mhm.
the team. So he is going to do a patchwork, most likely this year, of best player available. I just don't see them go like I have a lot of people going like 3 or 4 different offensive linemen in the draft, and I'm like, you cannot put 5 rookies on a offensive
Yeah,
line and think you're going to win. I think the win total drastically drops if you go over 2, let alone 2. If you
I
do
got it.
more than that,
Bridge.
bridge.
Bridge
Okay,
quarterback.
you got it.
God.
Yeah.
So no, but this is perfect. So I can see a scenario where we draft 4 linemen. But if you think you're, because I've heard this a bunch of times. This is why this is relevant because people are like, "You gotta draft a whole new line," and exactly what you said. You can't draft 5 new guys on the line. They're looking at probably drafting, you need at least 4 new players probably on this line, especially if Bitonio steps away. But you can't expect, even if you used your first 4 picks, that all 4 of those guys will be ready to step in and start at the beginning. But I can see with all the picks they have, them picking 4 or 5 linemen. The problem is then you need to have like 4 more on the roster who can start the season and hopefully play all year because you don't even want your 5th round guard to be your backup yet.
Yeah.
So, like, I could see them drafting quite a few linemen. I just don't think you should count on a scenario where any more than 2 come in and start. So I do think that is the model. Like, people think, like, there's no money for this, no money for that. You should be able to find a guard and a, like, bridge type tackle in free agency to hold those spots down so that you don't get your quarterback killed all season and find out nothing. But you
Yep.
also probably aren't spending massive money to bring in 3 high level starters at that position, which is something they've done in the past. And it struggled with the fact that, like, okay, we built a great line, but we don't really have a guy behind it yet, you know? But it will help whether it's Sanders, probably not Gabriel, but even Gabriel or
Probably
Watson. It will
Gabriel.
help them to get starters in front of them. You just need to get them from everywhere. You probably need one good one like legit starter guy that I kind of do expect. But then you can fill in the blanks with draft picks and kind of flex borderline starters or,
Yep.
to bridge until you so that you don't have to fix it all in one year, basically.
Yeah. Um, KP says drafting 3 using Zinter and Jones. I don't trust Jones to stay healthy to save my life.
You shouldn't trust
Yeah.
Zinter either,
Yeah.
but he's on the right track. Like, let's say you have Whippler, let's say you have Jones, let's say you have KT Levinston between those, and then like who else is it?
Livingston can play
Zinter.
guard too.
Yeah, Zinter, and then who do we else have? We had Cohen. Like between, let's say, just those 5, we're 5 guys that we keep on this roster. Can you make 2 of those start, pick up a free agent, and then draft 2? Like that seems somewhat more realistic.
Yeah. He also got asked about Shedeur. What improvement does he need? And he said Shedeur needs to be more efficient. We said that on the show. Doesn't need to put the ball in harm's way. We said that on the show. Play out of structure, meaning this is where Todd Monken's language comes into play. Play out of structure more and generate explosive plays. Generate explosive plays is something Browns fans are going to need to hear, get used to it, because that is going to be said multiple times, not by just Andrew Berry, but also Todd Monken, because he's big on explosive plays.
And
He
that's
actually
not
has a
new in the
diagram
NFL,
how to create
but
it.
that's not new in the NFL, but it does kind of highlight, like, I'm sure Kevin Stefanski wanted explosive plays too. Like that's the analytic, that's more the analytic model shows like if you get explosive plays, that's a very big deal. I think the philosophy of Todd Monken, like what you hear, what fits a little better is, I would say one thing with Stefanski and Sanders and how that would mesh is, we know Stefanski wants his guys to play within structure.
Yeah.
Todd Monken is sounding like, I want a guy who will go out of structure more and would, this is Andrew Berry, but clearly they've been talking. He's not going to say something like that if Todd Monken is like, no, I want structure, right? He wouldn't say that in open public if that's not something that they have already agreed on. So I think that is the one plus to the Sanders hopefuls, that you can expect maybe a little bit more. His style is an offensive philosophy that encourages that more than tries to teach structure and build structure and practice structure, which I think is a big part of what they tried to do last year. They tried to reel him in and get him to play more within the structure. The bad news is I don't know if that's ever going to be in his game. The good news is we'll get to see something that maybe fits him a little more if he can pull it off. He tries to play out of structure. His problem is when he does it, he makes, to me, just as many explosives as he makes mistakes.
So
by taking a sack or throwing an interception. So he just has to play out of structure and just be better at it, essentially. Just be more efficient with it. You can play out of structure without taking risks. The play's not there, run for a couple yards or throw it away. That's where I think he's lacking, because some of his big throws were because he scrambled out and
out of structure.
Throws the defense off a lot. The defense
cannot guard. They're getting into the next quarterback we're going to talk about. It probably messed up Dillon too, probably playing in structure and feeling the pressure of not making a mistake, throwing an interception, and then knowing that if I do make a mistake, they're going to bring in this other guy who's competing against me.
Yeah.
But
we can be honest.
Yeah.
Dillon should have been better at that. My hope was that Dillon will be good at playing in structure, but you just brought up all these other surrounding factors. The other issue that I think we can all agree to at this point, the offense wasn't good enough to play in structure. You had to play out of structure. The line was bad. The receivers weren't up to par, and we missed a couple games with Quinshon Judkins. You needed to be able to play out of structure to succeed there, and it was silly for Gabriel and even for the coaching staff to be too focused on structure, because you weren't a good enough team to play in that structure, period.
Yep. 3 of the things Andrew Berry said in his press conference are 3 of the 6 Todd Monken has of his 6 pillars to a good offense. It's actually titled Todd Monken's 6 pillars to a good offense. Sorry, I guess I was right. Don't turn the ball over, be explosive, score touchdown in the red zone, be good on third down, don't have lost yardage plays, meaning sacks or penalty yardage, and have an athletic quarterback who can make off schedule plays. So they're on the same vision here. So whatever I'm pretty sure tomorrow Monken will say some type of same verbiage. Is that's what they're going to need. So when you think of a quarterback, think of that, of those, put them on your wall and remember them. Because if they get a quarterback and it matches that, you can be like, yep, that's the quarterback that they
And
want.
I think everyone but the last one is almost a universal rule. The reason I think the last one feels a little bit a kind of bias towards today's NFL because like some of the best quarterbacks right now are out of structure guys.
Yeah.
There's less Tom Brady's right now, and there's more Josh Allen's. That's just like at least at the top. Like the guys that are the best are right now are guys that move around and make a lot of off schedule throws, which I think is a good way to go though because you have to be really good to be an on schedule passer and take your team to the Super Bowl. We almost got spoiled by the fact that Tom Brady was that and was that for so long. And then there was Drew Brees, which was that, and Peyton Manning, which was that. And that was so dominant for 20 years in the NFL that we almost forget that it's so hard to find those are all Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Like to be a Super Bowl quarterback who just plays in schedule, you pretty much, I feel like, have to be almost a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're going to have to be a guy who can scramble, who can run, who can buy time. Like that has become the more common NFL star, not the Drew Brees, Tom Brady's, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, last thing before I hit Sam's question here. First of all, as first, KP said, number 7, don't pull your hot-handed quarterback or a tight end to run the Wildcat in the end zone. That's the number 7. Good one. Last one, Dylan. Andrew Barry said Dylan may have been basically he said Dylan may have been forgotten by everyone outside of Berea, but we see him and he's been handling everything within his control. So we often don't bring about Dillon Gabriel's name when it comes to quarterbacks, but what would it be like? What would it I just want you guys to understand something. Like, don't be surprised if Dillon Gabriel is the guy to start because we said what? That they're going to go out the head coach who's young, who's innovative, and who's like 30, and they did opposite, right? And then we say, oh, they're going to get a defensive coordinator who's Jim Schwartz's disciple, who's going to play exactly what Jim Schwartz did because that's what the team needs. And what did they do? They went outside of Berea.
A Monken guy. They got a Monken guy.
They got a guy from Atlanta. So to sit there and say, I promise you, Dillon Gabriel won't see the field or start, well, it would be an injustice to podcasting. So I will always keep the door open for Dillon Gabriel to start or to play until he's no longer on this team.
We should start keeping the door open to a lot more stuff because this team just does crazy stuff. In my opinion, and I was like a big guy for I thought I had a very good handle on Dillon Gabriel. And again, like I said, last year I was disappointed because I thought his floor was a pretty solid floor and he fell below it. I thought he wouldn't take sacks. He didn't throw too many interceptions, although I would have liked even less, but he took way more sacks than I thought, and he wasn't the quick timing decision maker like that he should have been, maybe for some of those reasons that you pointed out, like somebody's right over his shoulder, like the team is bad. He can't trust his receivers to make these quick throws, too many balls getting popped up in the air, whatever reason it was, he wasn't the guy that I thought he was. But I still think I had a very good grasp on why he was drafted. And I think we'll see if it plays out this way. But a lot of people have just assumed they only picked him because he was Kevin Stefanski's guy.
Andrew
But
Barry's
we
been
said
sticking up for him.
we said very early on, they didn't pick him to be a starter. Starting is a long shot. They picked him because he has a great attitude. He's smart. They could see him being with the team for a long time and being somewhere between a bridge to spot starter or just long-term backup. Nothing of that has changed since last year. In fact, the only real difference between this year and that last year, if you just take away the pure gameplay of last year's terrible season, is now he has a little more NFL experience and they know he's at least capable of winning NFL games because he showed that last year. He wasn't very good, and a lot of people thought he wasn't very good, but for the people who were like, "He should have never even gotten drafted," well, he was capable of winning an NFL game on a terrible offensive team. So,
Yeah.
like, at least that he can win you a game. So if you come out and Watson gets hurt like he always does, or it just doesn't work out and Sander gets hurt, like it's not a bad thing to have a guy on the roster who you think can play a little football. You're gonna keep 3 quarterbacks, I feel like still. So like I just think he's still if that was your belief all along that he's a long-term backup, I don't think that has changed all that much.
Yeah. One last question, Sam from Saturday show. I'm sure they're going to talk about this on Saturday too. So tune in 10 a.m. Saturdays, Browns morning brew. He says our needs in this draft, in my opinion, offensive lineman, wide receiver, tight end, defensive back, specifically for a nickel and dime package safeties. Those are my top priority picks. What are you guys' thoughts on that? Everything you just said.
That pretty much hits. Yeah.
Everything
I
you
think we
just said
need
is spot on.
we need starting linemen and potential depth.
Yeah.
We need more depth for our secondary at both levels. And we need wide receiver talent. Everything else is just extra picks to fill in guys behind the guys you have, which is exactly how you want to have your draft. So we have 10 picks. They can get if they pick well enough, which is a long shot, but to get every single thing you need. But if they pick well enough, you should be able to fill those positions, and then the rest of your picks, you're just starting to fill in developments, depth, special teams, and that's how you hope the draft goes for the next several years. Where like you don't desperately need spots where you have to reach or pick an exact thing. We've seen teams like they really need a safety so bad they have nothing on this roster.
Yep.
That's when you have to pick somebody you might not want to pick. There was a year where the Browns like there's years where Browns have made mistakes on guys. And sometimes I think they just misevaluated, and sometimes I think that's just the position that was so glaring that they took somebody there, and like maybe they wouldn't have if they had, you know, more picks and less holes. But I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I
you pretty much
agree. You
nailed it.
do need a linebacker because I guess Sam made that list assuming that they're going to sign Bush. That's why he didn't add a linebacker in there. But I
do
think
not think
Bush,
we will.
yeah, I think Bush has played his way
He's
out of our
gone.
price tag. I read right now he can command up to 15 to 16 mil a year.
Yeah. And
That's
you
out
just
of our
don't
price
play
range.
you don't pay that when he's not your best. Somebody's going to be like, this will be our best linebacker, and we have a linebacker deficit. No
Yep.
matter what they pay him, Carson Schwarzenegger's just already better.
Yeah.
And
Also,
so
too, Dan hits everything I've been telling people that Delpit is an unrestricted free agent next year. He is your top priority. He should be outside the offensive line. He
just
should
like
be your top priority.
just like Bush last year, that is a guy that you have to sign
You
before
have
the
to
season starts
sign Delpit,
because
especially.
of what just happened with Bush.
Yep.
You should never let a guy who you think is talented and you think can be a piece for you for up to 5 more years show that he's worth more in the season when you don't have him locked up.
You can
And
pay him
Andrew
less
Berry
now
has
if once
very
he.
few
Yep.
I have very few
Once
complaints
he
about Andrew Berry. I'm very disappointed they didn't sign him on the cheap with Bush last year. They did sign Grant Delpit early, which is why he's still around.
And it
But
maybe Delpit also signed that because he was hurt. He had a little injury issue.
so
So
was
he's
yeah, and
yeah. So
Bush
now he's
had
been
like his
healthy.
off the field
Yeah.
stuff. So like I get why you maybe were like, we've
I
already
need to
got enough
sign
off
this.
the field questions, but
Need
I
to
would have
sign
signed him.
this. Yep.
Delpit will be our August signing, I think.
Yeah, Delpit's good because you need him for that Rudy defense. He's going to be him, and you're going to need a nickel. You'll probably need another safety in the draft, like the top safety.
Yep.
You'd probably get later safety, and you need a nickel corner, just like Sam said.
Safety's not that expensive of a position, and he is good, but he's not like Ed Reed, where you're like, well, we're gonna have to pay him some crazy new record safety number. Even the top safety number is not that high. It's like
Yeah,
it is a good position to resign. I think I will be shocked if they don't get that
I
done
agree.
before this even starts.
Well, that is all we have for the show tonight. We're out of our notes, so that means we have to leave, and we're out of here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Shout out to all our sponsors. Thank you for coming on our show and just supporting, keeping us doing what we're doing. We appreciate every single one of you guys that commented in our comment section. Thank you for everyone watching, all 40,000 of you guys that watched tonight. Thanks. We'll be back next Tuesday, 7:30. Probably talking about who surprised us at the combine and who disappointed us. But tune in Saturday at 10 a.m. Browns Morning Brew. I'm sure they're going to talk about the combine and what has happened.
They get to talk about the like mid and post combine stuff. That's awesome.
They don't get to talk about the important on Saturday. Saturday's the big one. I think all the receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs, they all go that time.
Yes.
So tune in that. So we'll see you guys next week. Until next time, like always, go Browns.
Go Browns.